At my mom's birthday dinner, she said, "You're the reason your father drinks." I stayed silent. 2 months later, during her surprise retirement party, I played the voicemail where Dad admitted she was the one who hit me, and everyone heard it. "I'm Alex, 32 years old, male, and 2 months ago I learned there's no clean way to swallow humiliation. It just sits in your chest, sour and heavy, until it rots into something sharper." That night was supposed to be easy. My mom, Linda, was turning 60, and my sister and I had booked a nice little Italian place in downtown Providence. I'd picked up flowers, a bottle of the wine she likes to brag she discovered in Napa, and even a stupid novelty card with glitter balloons because I thought maybe, just maybe, we could have a dinner without it turning into a dissection of my life choices. I should have known better. The first hour was fine. She held court like always, telling the waiter how she'd raised two kids on grit and high standards. Translation, constant criticism. My dad, Ron, sat quiet beside her, nodding like he's been doing for 35 years, stirring his drink instead of making eye contact with me. He doesn't talk much when she's in performance mode. I can't blame him. He's usually the next target. It happened somewhere between the entree and dessert. My sister asked if I'd been dating anyone lately, and I said no, not seriously. That's when Mom smirked, leaned back in her chair, and in the same tone she'd used to announce a weather report said, "Well, you're the reason your father drinks?" There wasn't laughter, not even the polite kind. The air just changed. I froze, knife still in my hand, like my brain had short-circuited. She'd never said it out loud before, not in front of other people. Sure, I'd heard it in different flavors, her telling me I'd inherited my father's bad luck, or that I was a constant source of stress, but never the naked version. Dad didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me, just kept swirling the ice in his glass, the same hand that once patted my back after my first high school football game. My sister made this soft, embarrassed laugh like she was trying to smooth it over, but it felt like static in my ears. And me? I stayed silent. I don't know why. Not from fear. God knows I've pushed back on her before. But because if I opened my mouth right then, it would have all come spilling out. Years of the petty digs, the rewritten family history, the way she made me feel like my place in the family was always conditional. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break in public. So I let the silence stretch. Ate the last few bites of my pasta even though my stomach had knotted up, then paid my share of the bill and wished her a happy birthday like I was on autopilot. I hugged her, because that's what you do in my family. You perform the scene, even if it's rotting underneath. When I got home, I sat in my car in the dark for over an hour. No music, no phone, just running my fingers over the steering wheel and thinking, she's not going to stop. She'll never see herself as the problem. And that was the first time the idea formed, the one that would take 2 months to ripen. I wasn't going to yell at her. I wasn't going to write some cathartic letter she'd laugh off. I was going to wait. Wait for the moment she needed me to play the good son. Then I'd hand her the truth so she couldn't wriggle out of it. And she'd have an audience. After that dinner, something in me shifted. I didn't blow up, didn't call her the next day to rehash it. I just went quiet. My mom thrives on two things, control and reaction. You deny her either, she starts getting twitchy. So I stayed polite on the rare times we spoke, but I didn't volunteer anything. No updates on work, no jokes, no asking how she was doing. Just surface level, how's the weather stuff. And I could feel her getting irritated through the phone. 2 weeks later, she tried baiting me, called to remind me about her upcoming retirement party. She's been with the same accounting firm for 32 years, and this was going to be her big send-off. A surprise, technically, but she'd been accidentally letting details slip for months. Guest list of 80, catered buffet, slideshow of her career highlights, the whole Queen's coronation treatment. "You are coming, Alex," she said. Not a question, an order. It'll mean a lot to me. My first instinct was to say no, but that was when the plan started knitting itself together. See, 3 years ago, Dad got drunk after a fight with her. Bad drunk. The kind where he calls me instead of his buddies because he knows I'll pick up. He rambled for 20 minutes about how she twists everything, how she made him feel small even when he tried to protect me. And then, almost like it slipped out. He admitted something I'd suspected since I was 12. She was the one who hit you that night, not me. I remember sitting there, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles went white. I'd spent my teenage years convinced he had done it, because she told me he had, and he never denied it. Never. Until that night. For years, that voicemail sat in my phone. I couldn't delete it, but I couldn't listen to it either. Every time I saw it in my saved messages, my stomach would knot. Now, though, now it had a purpose. If she wanted an audience, I'd give her one. Over the next month, I played my part perfectly. Called her twice to check in, let her gush about who was coming to the party. Said all the right, can't wait to celebrate you lines. Meanwhile, I backed up that voicemail in 3 different places. I even ran the audio through a program my buddy at work uses to clean up recordings. Took out the background noise, made every word crystal clear. The hardest part wasn't planning it. It was seeing her in the meantime. She invited me to brunch one Sunday with my sister and pretended that birthday dinner had never happened. She even complimented my shirt, like that erased anything. I just smiled, nodded, kept my eyes on my coffee. She had no idea I was already counting down the days. Because in my head, I could already see it. The catered hall, the applause, her smug little thank you speech, and then her voice getting drowned out by Dad's drunken confession blasting through the speakers. The weeks leading up to her retirement party felt like I was carrying a live wire in my pocket. Every time I thought about what I was going to do, my pulse kicked up. I kept my movements quiet. My sister, Megan, was in full-on planning mode, coordinating centerpieces and a memory board with photos of Mom through the decades. I helped just enough to look involved, found a few old family pictures, offered to bring my camera for candid shots. Meanwhile, the real prep was happening after hours in my apartment, headphones on, listening to Dad's voicemail until I could recite it word for word. The message itself wasn't long, just under a minute. But it was brutal in its simplicity. I should have told you back then, kid. It wasn't me who hit you that night. She was mad. Mad at me. Mad at you. I should have stepped in, but I don't know. Cowardly, I guess. I let you believe it was me because it was easier than telling you the truth. I'm sorry. The first time I heard it again after years of ignoring it, I had to sit down. That night, the one he was talking about, was etched into me. I was 14. She'd found out I'd skipped a school event to hang out with friends, and when I came home, Dad was gone. She was pacing the kitchen, her voice sharp, and before I could even defend myself, just crack. My cheek lit up, my ears ringing. Later, she told me Dad had done it when I wouldn't stop mouthing off. And I believed her. I avoided him for weeks. Even after things went back to normal, I carried this quiet distrust toward him, thinking he was the one who'd crossed that line. That one lie poisoned years of our relationship. Now, knowing the truth, it felt like losing a second childhood. The Friday before the party, I met Dad for coffee. I didn't bring up the voicemail, not directly, but I asked him if he remembered calling me that night. His face went pale. You still have that? Yeah, I said. Don't worry, I'm not mad at you anymore. That was true in a way. My anger at him had burned out and condensed into something colder, a clarity about who my mother really was and how far she'd go to protect her image. Dad stared into his cup for a long time before saying, "She'll deny it, no matter what." I smiled, but there was no humor in it. That's the point. On the surface, everything else was going fine. Megan had booked a rented hall decorated in my mom's favorite navy and gold. There'd be a buffet, an open bar, and a slide deck set to some cheesy, inspirational music. Mom had a new dress for the occasion, a deep green satin number she made sure to show off to both of us over FaceTime, spinning like she was on a runway. "You better not cry during your speech, Alex," she teased. "Oh," I told her, meeting her eyes through the screen. "I think I'll manage." What she didn't know was that my speech was already loaded onto my laptop along with the audio file, queued up in a folder labeled Retirement Slides. I'd even timed it so her confession would play just after the last photo faded to black. The day of the party, I woke up feeling like I'd swallowed a hive of bees. I'd been to plenty of family events where Mom was the center of attention, but this was different. This was her Super Bowl. She'd been working that accounting firm since before I was born, and she'd crafted an image there just like she did at home. Meticulous, generous, the kind of woman who could balance a budget and a friendship with equal skill. Most of her coworkers thought she walked on water. By 5 p.m., the rented banquet hall was glowing in soft gold light. Balloons floated near the ceiling. The tables were draped in white linens, and the slideshow screen stood against the far wall like an altar. Megan had gone all out. She even hired a local guitarist to play soft background music during dinner. Mom worked the room in that green satin dress, hugging people, laughing that fake movie theater laugh she uses when she's in PR mode. I hung back, camera in hand, capturing photos like I promised, while inside I was counting down each small moment until the finale. We had dinner, pasta, carved roast, some kind of suspiciously perfect-looking salmon, and then Megan tapped her glass for attention. All right, everyone, if we could get settled, we've got a little trip down memory lane for our favorite retiree. The lights dimmed. My laptop, already connected to the projector, started the slideshow. Pictures of Mom in big 80s hair, baby Megan on her hip, vacation shots, office parties. People laughed, clapped, called out little memories. She beamed at every frame. I stood off to the side near the AV table, pretending to just be managing the tech. My finger hovered over the trackpad. The final slide faded, her and Dad on their wedding day, and I queued up the bonus clip. And then, I froze. It hit me all at once. This wasn't just about her. My dad was sitting in the front row, hands clasped, watching like he was seeing the last 30 years in fast forward. He'd been complicit, yes, but he'd also been crushed under her heel for decades. My sister, still blissfully in the dark, stood beside him with her phone out, ready to record Mom's reaction to something else entirely. When I looked back at my mom, she was dabbing her eyes with a napkin, milking the moment, every inch the adored matriarch. I heard my pulse in my ears. One tap, and the entire facade would shatter. I tapped. The speakers crackled. And then came Dad's voice, raw and slurred, spilling out into the room. I should have told you back then, kid. It wasn't me who hit you that night. A hush dropped over the crowd like someone had sucked the oxygen out. Conversations died mid-sentence. Mom's head jerked toward me, her smile evaporating. On the recording, Dad kept talking, about her being mad, about letting me believe it was him. The words were sharp enough to cut through the clink of silverware and the shifting of chairs. By the time the audio ended, the silence was absolute. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I just looked at her and said, "Congratulations on your retirement, Mom." She stood so abruptly her chair tipped backward and clattered to the floor. I'd never seen her face that pale. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. 1. Well, y'all weren't kidding in the comments about nuking it from orbit. I didn't even make it out of the banquet hall before my phone started lighting up. Half texts from people who were there, the other half from numbers I didn't even recognize. A few were from my mom's coworkers who'd always thought she was this saintly, cardigan-wearing role model. They weren't sending congratulations. A couple of you asked if anyone confronted me on the spot. Oh yeah, that happened. The second that voicemail ended, Mom lunged toward the AV table like she was going to rip the laptop out of my hands. Megan stepped in front of her. She still didn't understand what she'd just heard, but she knew Mom looked ready to commit a felony in a dress. Dad was just still. Like he'd been expecting something like this for years, and it had finally arrived. Then some guy from her office, tall, bald, clearly a golf buddy, got up and muttered, "Jesus Christ, Linda," under his breath as he walked out. That was the starting gun. People started leaving in twos and threes, some shaking their heads, some deliberately avoiding eye contact. Mom kept hissing my name like it was a curse word. "Alex, Alex, turn it off. You've ruined everything." "It's already off," I told her. "But you can't unhear it, can you?" By the time I packed up the laptop and slung my camera bag over my shoulder, the only ones left were family and a couple of shell-shocked coworkers. Megan was crying, not because she thought I was lying, but because she realized there was a whole piece of our childhood she never knew about. She asked me, point blank, if it was true. "All of it," I said. "I thought Dad hit me for years because she told me he did, and he let me think it." Dad tried to speak, but Mom cut him off with, We are not doing this here. Which exactly proved my point. Now here's the part that actually surprised me. My phone blew up the next day with messages from extended family I haven't spoken to in years. A couple cousins told me they'd always suspected mom was different behind closed doors. One aunt said she'd seen her discipline me once at a holiday gathering when I was about 10 and never forgot it. And the best part? My sister moved in with me for a few days, just to get some space. She brought wine and old photo albums and told me she's not going to mom's house until she gets an apology. I'm not holding my breath. To the people who said she'd go nuclear, yeah, you were right. She's already sent me 3 emails in all caps about slander and public humiliation, threatening to consult legal counsel. I screenshotted them and sent them to a buddy who's a lawyer. He said the words, "truth is a defense," and told me to save everything. Oh, and a special shout out to the commenter who said, "Bet she'll try to flip the script and make herself the victim." She's already posted a vague Facebook status about betrayal by those you love most and the danger of taken out of context recordings. People are asking in the comments what happened. She's ignoring them. So yeah, fallout's in full swing. And honestly, I don't feel bad. Not even a little. The first 48 hours after the party were almost quiet. I think she was regrouping. That's the thing about my mom. She's not a screamer by default. She weaponizes her outbursts. If she's silent, it's because she's calculating. By day 3, the retaliation began. It started small. My sister texted me a screenshot of a post in some private Facebook group for professional women of Rhode Island, where mom was basically rewriting the entire event, claiming I'd spliced together audio from old voicemails to smear her, implying I had a history of unstable behavior, and, my favorite part, hinting that I might be struggling with substance issues, which would be a neat trick considering I don't even drink. Then she started calling relatives. I know this because Aunt Marie called me right after hanging up with her. "She's telling people you've had some kind of breakdown," Marie said. "Alex, do you need me to set the record straight?" I told her to let mom run her mouth. Every word she said now was going to sound like damage control. The next escalation was in person. I was pulling into my apartment lot after work when I saw her car, a silver Lexus SUV, parked crooked across 2 visitor spaces. She was standing by my front door holding a manila folder like she was about to serve me papers. "I'm not coming in," I said as soon as I got out of the car. "Whatever you've got, you can say it here." She shoved the folder toward me. "You need to retract what you played. Issue a statement saying it was doctored." "No." Her voice went sharp like glass cracking. "If you think you can humiliate me in front of my colleagues and walk away unscathed, you're wrong." I actually laughed. "You mean the colleagues who already heard Dad admit it? You think they're buying your spin?" That's when she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, sharp, floral, aggressive. "You're my son," she said, like it was some kind of trump card. "You're supposed to protect me." "I'm supposed to tell the truth," I said. And then she lost it, shoved the folder against my chest hard enough that it bent in half, spun on her heel, and stomped back to her SUV. Inside the folder? Printed copies of every vaguely embarrassing photo she could dig up. Me in braces, me with a bad haircut at prom, me in a Halloween costume at 5 years old. Scrawled across the top of each one in red marker. Is this the face of a trustworthy person? It was so absurd I actually sat down on my couch and laughed until my ribs hurt. But here's where things really tipped. My sister texted me later that night with a single sentence. She's calling Dad nonstop, trying to get him to say the voicemail was fake. And that's when I realized I didn't have to keep defending myself, because if she pushed him too far, he might finally speak up. And if that happened in public? Her carefully constructed image wouldn't just crack, it would collapse. I didn't have to wait long. 3 days after she tried the folder full of shame, Dad called me. It was late, close to midnight, and his voice had that low, hesitant tone he gets when he's fighting himself over whether to say something. "She's been on me nonstop," he said. "Keeps telling me to do the right thing and tell people the recording was edited." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That I'm done lying for her." I swear, I had to sit down for that one. My father, the man who had perfected the art of avoiding confrontation with her, had just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Apparently, the breaking point came earlier that evening. She'd called him 6 times in a row, then shown up at his apartment unannounced. He said she was pacing like a caged animal, alternating between crying and yelling, telling him she'd lose friends, maybe even clients, if he didn't correct the narrative. When he refused, she slammed a glass of water against the counter so hard it shattered, cutting her hand. And instead of apologizing or leaving, she used the blood like a prop, holding it up, telling him, "See what you're doing to me?" He told her to get out. The next morning, he called my sister and me to meet him for lunch at this little diner near his place. He looked lighter, still tired, but like someone had finally put down a heavy bag they'd been carrying for decades. "I'm going to tell the truth," he said, stirring his coffee. "If she wants to burn everything down, fine. But I'm not standing in the way anymore." My sister looked like she'd been holding her breath for days. "Dad, do you understand what that means? Once you say it, there's no going back." He just nodded. "I know." That night, he posted on Facebook. Nothing long, nothing dramatic. Just, "The voicemail my son played at Linda's retirement party was not edited or fabricated. I said those words, and I meant them. I have lived with the guilt for years, and I am sorry for letting Alex believe something that wasn't true." Within an hour, it had over 100 comments. Some people expressed shock, some offered support, and a few, clearly her die-hard loyalists, accused him of being manipulated by me. But the damage was done. I figured she'd retreat. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke up to find my car windshield spiderwebbed with cracks. No note, no obvious suspects, but my building's security camera caught a blurry image of a woman in a green coat, exactly like the one she wore to the party, walking away from the lot at 1:40 a.m. I didn't call the cops, not yet. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. Don't forget to subscribe. Update 2. So, remember when I said I wasn't going to call the cops yet? Yeah. That decision lasted exactly 48 hours. I posted the cracked windshield story here, and half of you were like, "Lawyer up, call the police, get cameras inside your damn apartment." The other half were sending me borderline unhinged ideas for revenge. Special shout out to the person who suggested mailing her a birthday cake with the voicemail printed in icing. I'm tempted, not gonna lie. But things escalated fast. 2 mornings after the windshield incident, I walked out to find my car door handles smeared with something sticky. At first, I thought it was sap or syrup. Then the smell hit me. Fish sauce. As in the fermented, weeks-old, smells like a porta potty on fire kind. It had soaked into the seals of the doors. Security footage again showed the same blurry figure in a coat, hood pulled up, walking away. That was it. I filed a police report. My building manager even gave the footage to the responding officer, who didn't say her name but definitely gave me the "you and I both know who did this" look. They said they'd follow up, which I'm sure means this will sit in a file until the next ice age, but hey, it's documented now. Here's the twist, though. When I called my dad to tell him, he didn't sound surprised. "She's unraveling," he said. "Every time she tries to spin this, someone throws my post back in her face. She's not used to losing the narrative." Oh, and remember how she was telling everyone I'd had a breakdown? That rumor just got nuked because Megan, bless her, posted in one of those same local Facebook groups. If my brother's unstable, then I guess I am too, since I was the one who helped set up the projector for the retirement party. It got over 200 likes and a whole thread of people saying they'd always thought something was off about Mom's perfect family image. She's since been booted from at least one group she used to moderate. I'm not gonna lie, reading through the comments here and seeing how many of you have lived through similar family nightmares has been weirdly comforting. Like, I'm not insane for thinking this is messed up. To the person who messaged me saying, "Don't just win the battle, salt the earth," don't worry. I've still got the nuclear option if she doesn't back off. That voicemail isn't the only thing I've saved over the years. And if she wants to keep testing me, we'll see just how much of her legacy survives the truth. If the cracked windshield and fish sauce were her opening acts, what came next was her big, desperate headliner. 2 weeks after Dad's Facebook post, I got an email from an old high school friend, Matt. He still lives in town and works for the local paper, not as a reporter, but in the design department. The subject line of his email was just, "Heads up." Attached was a draft of a community interest article scheduled to run in the weekend edition. The headline? Local woman reflects on family betrayal during milestone celebration. Even without opening it, I knew. The piece was a puffed-up victim narrative, written like she was giving some TED talk about overcoming sabotage and healing from lies. No direct names, of course, but enough personal details that anyone in our circle would immediately know it was about me. She painted herself as the wronged mother whose troubled son had manipulated an elderly ex-husband into fabricating abuse. Side note, Dad's 63, and he still runs 5 miles every morning. Elderly, my ass. The article was dripping with self-pity, but here's where she shot herself in the foot. She included a line about how she'd always strive to model integrity for her children. That was the exact phrase she'd used in an old birthday card to me, one I'd kept because of how wildly different it was from reality. And in that same card, she'd actually admitted to losing her temper more than once when we were kids, but only because she loved us enough to correct us. Guess who still had the card? Guess who scanned it and emailed it, along with the voicemail transcription and Dad's Facebook post, to the actual news editor of the paper? By the time the weekend edition hit, her piece had been yanked. In its place was a short editor's note, saying they'd chosen not to run a submitted personal essay due to verifiable conflicts of fact. That alone would have been satisfying, but she couldn't leave it there. On Saturday morning, she showed up at the weekly farmers market, a place where basically the entire town cycles through, with a handmade sign that read, "Ask me about my lying son." I am not exaggerating. She stood by the kettle corn stand for 2 hours, talking to anyone who would listen. I know, because 3 different people texted me photos. It might have worked in another setting, but here's the thing. Dad was at that same farmer's market. He was there to pick up vegetables, wearing his running gear, and apparently when he saw her, he just stopped, stared for a minute. Then, loud enough for people nearby to hear, he said, "Linda, go home. You've embarrassed yourself enough." And he walked away. Someone caught that on video. It went up on Facebook within the hour. Last I checked, it had over 10,000 views, with comments ranging from, "This is like a soap opera," to, "Good for you, Ron." By Sunday night, she'd deleted her Facebook entirely. For the first time in my life, I think she's realized she can't win this one. It's been a month since the farmer's market meltdown, and the silence has been almost disorienting. No surprise visits, no late-night calls, no smear posts popping up in some neighborhood group. Just nothing. That worried me at first. Silence from my mom usually meant she was winding up for another swing. But then my sister called one night, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "She's moved to email blasts," Megan said between giggles. "Tried to send this manifesto to the whole family, but she forgot to BCC, so now there's this giant reply-all thread of aunts and cousins telling her to drop it." Apparently, the manifesto was her last attempt to set the record straight, recycling the same tired accusations. I'm unstable, Dad's senile, and Megan's too naive to see she's being manipulated. But the family's done. After Dad's Facebook post and her public stunt, nobody's buying it. A couple of my cousins even wrote back reminding her of times they'd seen her lose her temper when we were kids. That's when I decided it was time for my last move. Not revenge, not even payback. Just insurance. I sat down one Saturday morning and put everything I had into a single, well-organized file. The voicemail. Screenshots of her Facebook posts. Dad's written statement. Photos of my windshield and the fish sauce mess. Even a copy of that birthday card where she basically admitted to correcting me with her temper. I backed it up to 2 cloud accounts, a flash drive in my desk, and another in a safe deposit box. Then I sent her an email. No threats, no accusations. Just, "I have copies of everything. If you try to damage my reputation again, I'll make sure the people you care most about see it all. This is your only warning." She never replied. Since then, life's been quieter. I still talk to Dad every few days. He's been apologizing in pieces, admitting more than he could at the party. Megan and I have gotten closer than we've ever been. She told me the truth that night didn't just change how she sees Mom, It changed how she sees herself. As for Mom, she's still out there, probably telling some edited version of events to whoever will listen. But it's whispers now, not shouts. And she knows, really knows, that I can end the conversation anytime I want. 2 months ago at that birthday dinner, I stayed silent. I let her throw me under the bus in front of everyone. At her retirement party, I made sure she'd never mistake my silence for weakness again.